share the briefest version possible of my story so that those that have never heard it, and I'm going to go further back than I normally go for those that have maybe heard it and they're like, oh, I've heard this before. I'm going to go a little bit further back. I need you guys to have context. I need you guys to understand where I'm coming from. I need you guys to get the picture. And I think you're going to relate, if not to my younger self, to my now self. Okay. So I'm going to give that. Here's how this thing's going to go. I'm going to give you guys a brief timeline of my story, but I want you guys to know, like, my life has changed so dramatically from this business that I get a little excited and I get a little pissed off when people tell me that this doesn't work, or that they tell me it's a scam, or they tell me that whatever, it doesn't work for them, because it's literally changed my life and allowed me to do some incredible things. Okay. So that said, guys, here is the timeline just to catch you guys up to speed. In 2006, sort of put me about 16 years old. Okay. My dad gave me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You guys have all heard of it. If you haven't, go buy it. It's amazing, right? In the book, he talks about getting out of the rat race, making enough passive income, money you don't have to work for, that you don't have to work, that your bills are covered and you can retire if you choose. That's the definition of escaping the rat race, according to Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki. 16 years old, I'm like chasing girls, playing sports. My dad gives me that book. Don't know why. He gives me that book, and I don't even know why I read it, because I didn't like school, didn't like reading, read the book, was obsessed with the concept. And from that point forward, I was hooked. I was like, I want to get rich. I want to get out of the rat race, right? And I need to create passive income. However, when I was 16, the example in the book that he uses is real estate, homes, apartments, duplexes, all real estate. And most of us know that if you want to buy real estate, you need cash. You need money for down payments. Now, yes, I understand there's creative financing and there's this and that, but I'm saying for the majority, and as you scale, you need cash. And so my goal was like, I'm going to get out of the rat race, but I'm going to need cash. So I started creating plans of how I can get cash so I can get out of the rat race, right? So that's 2006. That's kind of where I got like hooked, and my appetite for money and like just doing big stuff happened. 2006. Okay. If you haven't read that book, read the book. Okay. Because it will make you appreciate this business model that much more, because it's the exact same thing that Kiyosaki talks about, but it's the freaking updated version. Kiyosaki, let's freaking get with the picture, bro. Somebody that knows him, share this with him, because that shit's out of date. Okay. 2010, I'm only telling you this so you have context. 2010, out of nowhere, I decided to go on a volunteer missionary trip and moved to West Africa. Never lived outside of Utah, never had been on an airplane, literally got a ticket from my church and I flew to West Africa, and I was there for 2 years, okay? I got back from that in 2012, 13, that range right there. Got married right away. And then, guys, out of nowhere, because all I had done was worked on a farm. I worked for my dad on a farm, driving tractors, you know, raking hay, baling hay, cutting hay, whatever, just all that manual labor stuff. That's the only thing I'd ever done. And I got a call from a buddy, my buddy Dave, and he literally said to me, he said, hey man, my company, this complete bullshit. He's like, my company's hiring. It's a door-to-door company. They're always hiring. He's like, my company's hiring, and you came to my mind. I'd love to talk to you about this opportunity. So literally, I remember it like yesterday. I'm at the gym. I never missed the gym. I told my wife, I was like, yo, I'm going to take this call really quick. This guy says he's got this job, which, by the way, again, commission jobs, they're always hiring. You don't even have to, you can just chew gum and walk and boom, you're hired. I take the call. First thing he says, he's like, yeah, my first year I made 90 grand. 90 grand, guys. I'm 22 years old, no college education. I mean, I had to put my wife's wedding ring on a payment plan. It was only $2,500 and the stones were cut in 4 ways, cheap as shit. And I'm like, 90 grand, dude, I don't really know you that well, but if you could do it, I can do it. I've always had that mentality. Sign me up, dog. Okay. So from that point forward, I didn't know I could sell. I didn't know that. I was a farm boy. I freaking grew up from 12 years old to 18 working on the farm. And then I lived in Africa. Like, dude, I didn't know I could sell. I didn't think I could sell. I had all the same doubts that you guys probably have right now, as you're like, I don't think I could sell business owners. I'm telling you right now, this sell, I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but the sell that we're talking about, giving free leads, is not that hard compared to regular sales. You're literally just helping people. Okay. From 2013 to 2016, I did door-to-door sales. literally 6-7 hours a day, sometimes 8 hours on Saturdays. It was like 10 hours. I'm knocking on doors and I am literally asking people to buy my security system. Didn't even have one in my own house for the first couple of years. Imagine selling something that you don't even believe in, right? I eventually convinced myself it was a good product. Did that for 3 years. But here's where everything kind of changes, okay? 2015, October 15th, right around there, I got my check. That whole summer is my biggest summer. I sold almost 300 accounts. That doesn't mean anything to you guys. You have no context, but that's quite a few. That equated to about $210,000. And some of you guys, and even to me now, I'm like, that ain't that much money. But when you're 20, I think I would have been 24, 25, you don't have a college education, and you make $210,000 in 5 months, 6 months as a salesperson, you make 2-3 times more than your professors. You think that your shit doesn't stink, okay? 210 grand. The way that they paid us is on October, I think it was 15th, we would get a wire, and you would wake up and you look and see what your check was, because they'd only pay you a portion of it throughout the year in case people canceled, right? So this is where the story really starts. 2015, I wake up and I see my deposit, right? It was over 6 figures. It was like 150K. They paid me like 60 and I got 150K. Imagine as a 25-year-old, boom, 150K cash. You would think I would go and buy the most expensive steak, go buy a watch, go celebrate, go on a trip, whatever, right? I got that text. I opened my account and looked at that deposit, and it made me sick to my stomach. And here's the reason I was sick to my stomach, because I realized where this was going. I realized that if I didn't get off the gravy train, I was going to be wearing the golden handcuffs forever. And I say that because, yes, I was making 200 grand, but there was no path for me to make multiple millions of dollars. If I would have been satisfied with 200 grand and knocking doors and traveling across the country forever, then that would have been great. But I knew that if I didn't stop and find something else, I was going to wake up and I would be 5 years older and I would still be doing it. And I would be making okay money traveling, being a door-to-door salesman. And it terrified me. The other thing that terrified me is I looked at that amount and I thought, man, if that guy, the owner of this company, paid me 150 grand, me, one person, how much is he making? I'm making that dude rich. And right before that, this guy, the owner of the company, and by the way, props to him. He had just bought a golf course. He bought a golf course. He used 3 of the holes to build a 50,000 square foot estate. And he donated the other 6 holes because he didn't need them. Okay. So I'm sitting here going, this is great money. That's cool. But I want to be that guy. I don't want to be freaking Schneebly myself, who's going out, missing the 4th of July, missing Memorial Day, getting my ass soaked in sweat and having people call the cops and spit on me and call me the F word and all this different stuff. Like, what am I doing, man? And so in 2015, when I had that moment, that's when I went on my freaking hunt of what are we going to do for the rest of our life? What are we going to do to replace this $200,000, but that can also take me to multiple millions of dollars? And that's where it started, okay? So guess what I did? I started doing research. I started asking questions. I started taking people to lunch. I started making a list. What things does the business I want to get into? Because I knew inherently that in order for me to make millions of dollars, I wasn't going to be able to do it working for somebody else. I needed to own the thing. I needed to own the business. I knew that inherently, right? So I knew I had to own a business, but what else? Well, I had to have recurring income, because I'll be damned if I'm going to go sell something and only get paid once. It had to be scalable. It's not scalable to go knock on doors all day because you can only knock on so many doors, right? I had to be able to do it from anywhere in the world. This is 2015, guys. Not every person that you looked at had an online business. It was kind of rare. Not everyone did. And I was like, I want that life. I want to be able to travel. I want to have the laptop lifestyle, right? And I listed all these different things. I didn't have a ton of capital to start my business with because we ended up buying a house and all this different stuff. So I just listed all these things, right? And I started asking questions. And what happened is I went to lunch with a buddy who had done the same thing as me, was in the same job, and he had gotten out, right? He'd stopped doing door to door and he'd made a successful transition into a big boy career. And I said to him, I said, dude, what am I going to do? How am I going to replace this? I'm making 200 grand. The wife's used to it. The kids are used to it. I can't go down to 60 grand and I can't go get a job. What should I do? And he's like, do you like the internet? Do you like the internet? I said, I don't know much about the internet, but it fascinates me. It fascinates me that I can literally sell X amount of units that fast and make that much money. I love that I can go anywhere. I love that I can open up a laptop and make money. And in my mind, when he said internet, I'm thinking like blogging and affiliate and all these, drop shipping and Amazon. I didn't understand this kind of stuff. So he said, Nick, go listen to this podcast. And I think you're going to be interested. He gives me a podcast, and guess what happened, guys? The podcast talked about digital freaking real estate, right? It talked about rank and rent, building these stupid little websites, ranking these websites, and renting them out and owning the asset. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And my mind immediately went to, I don't know where my book is, but I thought I had Rich Dad's Poor Dad here, but my mind immediately, oh, here it is. This is what came to my mind. I was like, that's exactly what he's talking about, man. Except for I don't need to buy houses. I just need to build websites. Okay. So, guys, what happened is I discovered that. I listened to that podcast 3, 4, 5 times. And that next summer was my last summer doing door-to-door sales. And literally the first week, I knew I needed to start.